Wow, wow, wow. Good afternoon, my friend. Good morning. For those who are watching me from outside Africa and maybe outside East Africa, yeah, it's a wonderful time to be here once more. I really thank God for the opportunity, and I thank God for what happened yesterday. We launched this studio, Mentakawela on CBC studio. And I can actually confess this afternoon that it's been overwhelming. The responses, the comments, the compliments, the encouragement, everything. It's just been wonderful. And I'm feeling so encouraged. And I actually think this was a timely thing that we needed. And it's here with us. So we're here. And yesterday, we just looked a bit about the pathways. And now that we are going to be here for some time, let me say we are going to be here for some time, I would want us now to be a little bit more systematic in how we proceed from now henceforth. So today I have decided to actually make us understand what is this CBC uh, as opposed to the formal education system. And I will start by saying that we are moving from what we were so much used to calling 844. And the current one, actually, if you are to go by the way we knew the other one, now we should be calling it 2633. 844 meant that a student or a learner was supposed to stay in primary school for 8 years, then secondary school for 4 years, and university for 4 years. That's why we used to call it 844. Now, this system we are in, the one we are calling CBC, it's actually a 2633 education system, whereby a learner stays in the primary for 2 years, and then lower primary for 3 years, and upper primary for another 3 years up to grade 6, and then 3 years in the junior secondary, which is still within the primary, and then the 3 years in the senior secondary school. So it's actually supposed to be a 2633. And the main difference between the two is that the 844 was, if you are to use now the language you are talking of CBC, we would say 844 was CDS. CDS means it was content driven system. It was a content driven system. What do I mean? In the 844, those are what there was a stipulated amount of content I was supposed to teach in a certain class, and then when the learner is have covered, that's why the language overview covered the syllabus was so common. The syllabus was now, have I covered that content? It didn't matter whether the learner has understood it, whether the learner has benefited on it or anything, as long as the teacher has covered the syllabus. Then the learner was said to have completed that level of maybe of learning, maybe class 1, form 2, and all that. So it was content driven. The teacher looked at covering the content. The teacher looked at how much of the content have they like covered, and then that was defining of that system. It was content driven. Now the 2633 is competence based system. So it is a system of education which is not so much about the content, but about the competence of the learner. What is the learner able to do from that session or that lesson which you have covered, from that work I am supposed to do? So the teacher is not supposed to stand in front of the class and give the content. It's actually the learner is supposed to get something and then use it to build something else. Maybe let me explain a little bit by comparing what was happening with 844 and what is happening with the CBC, the 2633, so that you can understand. In content-driven system, there is a lot of memorization of the content the teacher is giving, so that the learner can go and produce it in the exam. And when they produce that information, they are said to have learned. So if the learner I can stand before the learner and I tell them Vasco da Gama came to Kenya or to Africa this year, and then the learner is able to memorize that and go to the class and during an exam, produce for me that. I ask them, when did the Vasco da Gama come to Africa? They tell me that he came this year. That was now content driven. I would say the learner has learned. But if you think of it sincerely, I mean, what has the learner learned there? By just knowing that Vasco da Gama came in Africa this year, that has the learner really learned? And that's why I said yesterday, we really need to embrace the competence based. So this content driven system of education, the 844, was so much manned with a lot of memorizing, a lot of what we call rote learning, as in it's just knowing for the sake of producing in the exam. That is what we call rote learning. There was no actual learning. There was nothing you could say. They were just memorizing. And then it had a lot of emphasis on exams. As in, exams were gatekeepers to any progress in academics. If I fail the exam, I am completely cut off from moving to the next level of education. So it was manned with a lot of injustice, if I misuse that, because I might wake up in the morning and I've forgotten when Vasco da Gama came. So if I don't tell you when Vasco da Gama came to Africa, I don't move to the next level. I can't qualify to do something in life because I can't remember that. So that is the main thing about content driven. But now this the 2633 system, which is competence based system, it's more of a holistic form of learning, whereby the learners don't spend days and nights memorizing people's ideas. By the way, everything we taught in the 844, it was just somebody's idea, and I want a child to come to school, pay school fees, sit in class and listen to me, memorize those ideas. I give them an exam and they produce for me that information and I say they have learned. If you think of it, what have they learned? What have they learned? If I go and tell them that a physician by the name Sijui Newton sat below, I don't know, a mango tree and saw a mango falling and said there's gravity. So I want the child to go and memorize that. And then I go to the exam, ask them, what did Newton call Sijui the falling of the mango from the mango tree? And then they tell me it was because of the pull of gravity. And that was enough. That was what was enough. So this system is a little bit more holistic because the learner, he's supposed to hear the information now, like now the gravity, and develop their own ideas from that. That is the aspect. So instead of just knowing that there's something called force of gravity, in CBC, the learner is allowed to go beyond that, knowing there's something called CBC, and then they develop their own ideas on that gravity and then come up with something else. Thank you so much, Senem, for watching. Welcome to the live stream. And I believe you're going to learn something for your learners. I know you are one of the people who are handling these learners directly. So the CBC it goes beyond the knowledge. it doesn't want the learner just to memorize, produce in the exam, and if they get, they have passed. If they fail, they are I don't know, they don't know. It's it's beyond there. So it is learner centered. So the learner can develop their own ideas, and the passing exam is not limited to their memory. It is more broader, because if they can use that information, it is good. And that is why now we are talking of the core competencies of the CBC. If you look at the core competencies, there are actually 7 of them. Critical thinking is part of that core competencies which the learner is supposed to be empowered with through the system. I'll mention those the core competencies as we summarize, but now I'm trying to bring in the aspect of when the learner knows that the mango falls because of the force of gravity, they're supposed to think and ask, okay, the mango falls because of force of gravity. What can I do with that force of gravity in the 21st century, not in those other years? Yes, what can they do? So they think. And there's a preacher I like reading his content, the late Mias Monroe, who said that in the whatever, if you go to the graveyard, he believes that a majority of the people, they just die before they use even a tenth of their brain, because we don't think. The education system has taught us not to think, but to just, when I say Vasco da Gama came this year, you just memorize that. That is not thinking. That is just trying to memorize it and come. So we were not thinking. So CBC allows the learners to think and use the knowledge to solve a solution. So let me mention the key features of the CBC, so that now we understand exactly what I mean by that thinking. Yeah? So one of the key features of the CBC is that it focuses on encouraging learners to develop skills. And these skills can be anything. They can be mental skills, they can be physical skills, they can be social skills. I mentioned that there are the 7 core competencies of CBC, and you'll find that communication and collaboration is a core competence. Learners are supposed to develop even their social skills. They learn to live with one another. They learn to communicate. They don't just sit there and memorize things, and they cannot even produce that. As a teacher, I've come across learners who they read something, they somehow feel it is somewhere within their system, and when you tell them to explain, they go ahead to even use their hands, because they don't have the language to produce what they understood. They just read, but they never went beyond the reading to think of how they can bring that out. So basically, the thinking helps you to internalize the information and be able to produce it. So some learners can read and understand a concept, but when you tell them to explain, they don't, because they have not been developing the thinking skills. So one of the key features of CBC is it's taking our learners beyond memorizing to developing skills across the board, including communication skills. And that's why you find there's a lot of communication which is going on in the CBC. As I said, I've been meeting a number of group of parents in the CBC, especially the junior schools. And some issues I hear is that the parents can complain that the teacher is doing nothing in class, is only telling the learners to sit in groups and talk and present. And a parent who is from the 844 feels like the teacher is doing nothing in that class. I want to tell you, if you are a parent there, the teacher who keeps on telling the learners to go into groups and form presentations, they are actually encouraging that communication. It is a competence the learner must be able to have, and it is going to help us improve a lot. The other key feature is the nurturing of the competence. Competence is what you are able to do. And you find that the 844 was not nurturing the competence. There was actually no room for that. Time was just spent memorizing. So how does the CBC feature the nurturing of their competence? This actually lies so much on the teachers and the parents and maybe the society at large. The learners are supposed to learn a concept and start thinking of what they can use that concept, how they can use that concept to actually develop something. We've talked about the development of skills, or to solve a certain problem, or to advance a certain issue in the society. Now, this is where the mistake is. Most teachers don't seem to have understood this concept of nurturing the competence. How? When a learner does something, a project, the learner is given a project, and the learner does something it just looks stupid. Some teachers, please hear, don't ask the learner, what is this you have produced? Let us see what the learner has done and ask ourselves, what can we do to nurture that? And if the learner has no idea in that field, remember in the lower primary, especially the primary school teachers, you are exposing the learner to almost everything, so that as they move to junior school and the senior school, they can now narrow down to their competencies. Some learners may not be good in a certain field or a pathway. So if they cannot produce something, don't belittle their work and don't rubbish what they have done by commenting negatively. Just understand that they may not be good in that, but there's an area they are going to be good in. And then you see an aspect of somebody who can be nurtured to make that thing become much better. Then go ahead and encourage them. For example, I'll give these, I've given this example over and over because it was the first time I had such an experience whereby a friend of mine called me from Meru and told me they have a nephew who has a project and they have not actually, the mother has called her to ask her what can be done, and she can't tell. They have consulted their mother now, my friend's mother, who is a retired teacher, and also now the grandmother to this boy cannot even assist the boy because they didn't know. Because the project was that they had been told to go into the society or into their local homes and check on a problem which is there and think of what they can do to solve that problem. So they were wondering, how can a grade 6 see a problem in the society and solve? So I gave them a very simple example. I told them, let them go. If there is no means of transport to that place, this boy can think of making a toy car using the maize stock, whatever, the maize cobs, or some sticks, or the whatever, the bottle tops as the wheels. That if a child thinks that way, comes to school with a toy car made with any local available material, because at their grandparents' place there are no vehicles, so they think there's a problem of transportation. The teacher, he's supposed to now look at the work of that child and ask themselves, how do I nurture these talents? How do I nurture this competence? How do I nurture, if a child is their place, they fetch water and is feeling like, I need to think of how I can even drill a borehole at our place and have water running. And then he comes up with a thing and he's saying, I think if you turn this way, it's going to bring water from underground. That's a very big innovation for this child. in as much as it looks very awkward, just made of sticks which are breaking. By the time the child arrived in school, the whole thing had broken down. Don't discourage that child as a teacher. Please nurture that competence, nurture that talent, because that is the person who is going to be the first person in our country or in the next generation to come up with a more modern type of a car. For the parents, I still want to warn you about nurturing the competencies. What has been happening is when a child comes with that project, you as a parent, you hire someone to do that project for the child. Now, what are you telling that child? You are spoiling the game. You are bringing us backward again. Don't do the work for the child. The child only needs to be guided, and they do. And if they have completely no idea, just know in that is not their area. One day the teacher will give them a project that will prove whatever their area of competence is. So I'm warning the parents, please, please don't do the project for your children. Just guide them, provide the materials they require, and then let them bring out their imagination. The child is supposed to use what they know and develop it into something themselves. The teacher gave them an idea. When they come home, they require some materials. Just provide the materials, ensure the safety of that child as they do it, and then watch them do. Don't do for them. You can provoke their thinking because we want them to develop critical thinking. When they do something and you see like if this child is provoked with a small thought, they can think otherwise and improve that project. You can do that. You can provoke their thinking, but please don't do the work for them. That is a very serious mistake we are making with our children. We are hiring people and buying project for them to take to the teacher. Then the other problem is teachers are not appreciating the little steps the learners are making in those awkward projects. So they are ending up discouraging the learners on how to develop themselves. So I hope you've got that. And another key feature of CBC is the assessment. 844 was what we call summative. We taught children for 8 years in primary, and they sat down to produce what they can remember in 3 days to determine where they go. That's what I'm saying. Exams were gatekeepers. So if a child, these are the 3 days when their memories are down for 1 or 2 reasons, something happens along the way in that week, they can't remember anything, they become anxious, they forget, everything is like stamped. You don't know. So CBC is different. It is not a summative, but it is a continuous assessment process. And that is why I am talking about the project. I'll go back there again. Please let the children discover their talents and abilities, and then we provide an environment for them to nurture the talent and to nurture the talent and to nurture their abilities. Another core competence of the CBC is called self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is the ability of the learner building confidence in what they can do, because someone has already applauded them for the work they have done. Like I'll give an example. Yesterday I launched this studio, and later in the day, a regional director of education, there are 8 regions in Kenya. A regional director comes to my page and he gives such an encouraging comment. You see, that made me develop confidence. Oh, kumbe what I'm doing, it's not just helping kina Sinem there, and Cecilia, welcome. I see you are watching. It's not just helping those, even the key people in the education sector. A regional director of education is appreciating what I'm doing. Above that, someone calls me outside the country and tells me, my children are doing the CBC system in Kenya. I brought them out of my country to your country to do the CBC because my country is not offering the CBC. And I'm very happy what you are doing. You see, that built the confidence. And you can see today, I even have the I don't know what are they called, the earphones or whatever. No, kumbe, whatever I'm doing, it is being appreciated, it is being received with appreciation. So it is the same with the CBC. Let the child do something, and then we encourage them with what they are doing and make them realize that their project can be developed to something. Let us not discourage them. And when we see the loopholes, the mistakes, we correct with love and with understanding that these are kids who are just whatever. If it is like washing washing an handkerchief, or let me say one I had last year, I think 2 weeks ago, her neighbor brought the daughter to me to show them how to crochet. And as you are doing this crocheting, the girl picked very fast, and I embraced her and told her, "You are such a fast learner. I'm looking forward to your final product of the crocheting." And she left the house very excited, and she went now to continue with the crocheting. That's what it's supposed to be. Let's build their confidence, because that is what they're able to do, and they can bring us out of this mess we are in as a nation by just using their mind, by thinking. So please, 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 teachers, let us encourage our learners with the project. However shown the work looks, let us applaud them for the steps they are making. Parents, let us stop taking project for our children to be done for by the other one. Actually, let me mention this as we come to the end of this session today. I've said I've been going around in schools, and I'll be sharing the concerns I've got from students. One student asked me, as I talked to them about pathways. I saw this girl looked a bit scared when I talked about like their projects, and I told them the project is also a determinant of the pathway you'll be placed into by the government next year. This was a grade 9 girl. And I saw the shock on the girl. So I ventured into it using a lot of psychology. And the girl was like, and the things we normally don't do, but we bring and we pass. And then I told her, you see, when you bring something you've not done, you are telling the teacher you have done and you are good in it. So you will be placed in that line to go and do those things. And the girl was like, no, me, those things I don't do, they are normally done for me. And those are the ones I pass. The ones I know I do, I don't get very high marks because I do them myself. But the ones I don't know, they are done for me and I get very high marks. Now, I don't know whether you are getting what I'm saying. What she doesn't know, it is done for her and she gets very high marks. What she has an idea, she does it in a small way of her own understanding, and she has not been scoring very highly in them. So she's now fearing she's going to be placed into a pathway based on the things she didn't know. What are you doing as a parent? So please, parents, let us be careful with this bit of projects. We are messing up our children. Let them, you see, like now, this girl would have been comfortable that whatever I was doing in a small way, I'm going to at least continue with it, making it better step by step. And what I didn't know, I cannot be placed. But if now the government was to go to the results, which the teachers skimmed in the system, they will see that this girl is good in this and place the child in that pathway. And the girl is what the girl is good in, which she should be polishing on, she will not be placed in this. So this girl will go into into a pathway which is not a personal interest. And we're insisting on competence. We want you, the learner, to build on your abilities, not on the abilities of the parents, not on the abilities got from the cyber, not on the abilities done by the shamba boy in your home or your uncle or your older brother. It is your own abilities. So the aspect of the project, I'll really insist, please let us be very keen on that. And to summarize our session today, I see that at the end of it, I'll mention the core competencies of the CBC or the competence-based curriculum, so that we understand where we are coming from. We are coming from where learners were memorizing and producing the answers in the exam, but now we are now shifting from memorizing what the teacher say to learning communication and collaboration. Even if a learner goes to school and theirs is talk. It's okay. We want leaders who can stand before people and talk. The learner is supposed to learn how to collaborate, as in coexistence, so that they can also come up with something together with somebody else which can solve a problem. Some project cannot be done by an individual. So when they go to this project, some projects they are given in group work. They divide. You go and research on this other one go and research on this other one go and research on this. When they meet, they talk together, and then they come up with something, collaboration, and then we build a better nation and we grow. If we don't allow this type of collaboration, we will never grow. We will continue being developing nation when we want to really be a developed nation. So the core competencies, one of them is communication and collaboration. So as a parent, if your child comes and tells you today the teacher gave us some work and went outside and left us to talk, the teacher just wanted these learners to learn communication skills. The teacher wanted learners to learn how to coexist in the class and live together, collaborating with one another. The other core competence of CBC is critical thinking and problem solving. And I think I've already brought out that clearly as I was talking about the project work. It is through the project work that the learners are supposed to think. That knowledge I give them, they don't just memorize it for me to produce in the exam. I want them to use what they know and tell me what can they do with that which they know to solve a problem. That is basically what critical thinking and problem solving is. Our learners, I can tell you, they have not been thinking. They have been memorizing. Memorizing is not thinking. So if you want them to start thinking, we have to let them get a bit challenged. And I tell them, like now that case of the boy I'm saying, go to the village, observe, think. Okay, I've taught you that we can we can put off fire in the laboratory. Now go to the village there. A neighbor's house was burnt. There was no the municipal or the county whatever, the fire extinguisher lorry around. What do you think could have been done in that case? The boy will come and he will go and think, what else can we do? If there's no fire extinguisher, whatever, lorry around with the water to come and put off the fire, let them think. I don't just teach them laboratory rules in chemistry, how to put off the fire, a fire extinguisher, and at home there's no fire extinguisher and the fire has come. What can you do with that when the fire has come to put it off? So that basically critical thinking. So the project are supposed to teach them critical thinking to solve a problem. And I'm happy to announce that I am aware that This is one of the core competencies that is a big challenge. We've been mentioning it with the 844. We've been mentioning about the lack of critical thinkers at the workplace. And I know it's not going to be any easier in the 844, but I have the good news for you. My thesis and my project, I'm developing a instruction in design model of how you can incorporate critical thinking in the teaching and how you can assess critical thinking. I know, even me, when I started researching on my thesis, it was not that easy, but it's becoming clear. And unfortunately, I can't preempt it until I graduate. But the minute I graduate, I'll come to those schools and I'll give you even an app whereby, even as a parent at home, you can have the app and you can do assess. Just the way we do assessment for the career choice, you can have an app now which can assess critical thinking level of your child and how you can keep on improving from one level to another. Those are good news coming very soon. The other competence or core competence of CBC is digital literacy, because, like I'm saying, to get all this critical thinking, problem solving, what, they require a lot of information in the internet. And that is an area we cannot now completely like shelf. We need the digital literacy among our learners, among the parents, and all that. We also teaching them to be good citizens by teaching them citizenship. And then there's learning to learn. Learning to learn is what I'm talking about, critical thinking, beyond the knowledge. When I teach them, they are supposed to go with that information and make it better. We stop this of a teacher. For 25 years, I was a teacher. I'm just standing in front of people, reciting them people's ideas, and they are not supposed to alter that idea so that I can tell them they are correct. That was not good. You will agree with me. We need CBC. I mean, I just stand before people and tell them an electron, I don't know, an atom has 3 particles. That was somebody's discovery over 100 years ago. Who said that that was the end of the discovery of the atom? So I want them to go and think, no, and they need to challenge the knowledge and now come up with another, more newer knowledge that is applicable in the 21st century. So that is what we mean by learning to learn. We teach the learners to learn, not to memorize facts and produce in an exam. Then I've already talked about self-efficacy, that is building the competence, the confidence in somebody's abilities. When it comes to that bit is what I'm warning the parents, especially. If a child can produce something and they take it to school for marking, and at the back of their mind they know they didn't do it, you are spoiling their self-efficacy. They are not believing their abilities. That's why that girl I'm talking about was shocked, because she knows whatever she presented to the teacher was not their ability. So she was like, wow, I'm going to be told to go to the senior secondary to do those things, and the way I hated them. So the child is already doubting themselves, is feeling that they have been doing the wrong thing. Let us avoid that. And the final core competency is imagination and creativity. They have to imagine. And that's why that boy I was saying was told, go to the village, to your local area, look around and see a problem and think of how that problem can be solved. That is critical thinking, problem solving, imagination, and creativity. That's how these core competencies are coming on board very easily, very easily. So, anyway, we will continue. We shall continue learning and we shall continue interacting. Otherwise, thank you. Thank you so much, Senem. Thank you so much, Cecilia Duko, and everybody who was able to join us online. I believe today we've learned something. Why do we really need there? a competence-based curriculum and not the content-driven system of education. We didn't need that. Actually, that has been a big bone of contention for majority of us. We were not prepared for it, and still some people, I go to schools, I find a kid who was jumped from class 6 to do a class 8 exam, the last one, so that they don't become victim of the CBC. And I was like, wow, I wish this parent knew what CBC is all about. I am aware of the challenges, as I said yesterday, and we appreciate what are our officers are doing at KICD to ensure CBC becomes a reality. Because if you really agree with me, this is what we need as a nation. This is what we need in the 21st century. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being there for the live coverage. And I welcome those who will come later. Please, after you watch, make a comment, especially on which are some of the issues you would want us to like address, so that we can be able to move on to the next level and actually sort out all these issues. Some parents have already called me and they are ready to come here one of the days. We have a question and answer session, and I would please request you, my presentations are normally shareable. Share with the ends of institutions, share with the parents, share with the people you think are concerned about it, so that we can make this a reality. Thank you so much. God bless you. We meet in the next episode. Thank you.